Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the 2022 Pennsylvania Black Health Matters Conference, Disrupt and Build Up. My name is Nicole McGruder, and I'm the Executive Director of Community Hero Action Group. Our mission is to close the gaps in health and wealth disparities within the Black community. We are here today with our next session, Sleep Well to Live Well. And it's being brought to us by Dr. Funke Afolabi Brown. Today's presentation will tell us all about the importance of sleep on mental and physical and emotional health. We will discuss how to prioritize sleep in spite of our busy schedules. Our busy schedules as women, let me be more specific. There will be a full 30 minutes reserved at the end, give or take. I know we had a little technical difficulty at the beginning, but we'll have some time at the end, hopefully for a little bit of Q&A. Be sure to pop whatever questions you have in the comment section, so we can try to get as many as possible answered. And lastly, I would like to mention that we have a special guest as a part of this forum, and that is Ms. Emma Wimberly from the Ink Factory. And she is actually an artist who is here today to create live visual notes. She will be synthesizing the words from the presentation and conversation into images and text to visually represent the key concepts and themes of our conversation this afternoon. We find that visual notes help boost understanding, learning, and information retention. We plan on using the graphics that are created during these sessions during Women's Wellness Day to create journals. And we'll be selling those to raise funds for Community Hero Action Group. So if you are interested in purchasing one of these journals with one of Emma's masterpieces, be sure to complete the survey that is going to come out after the conference, and just be sure to select that you would like to receive a copy of the graphic, and if you're also interested in purchasing one of our new journals. So I will go ahead and bring up the presentation, and let's get started. And I'm sure you will enjoy this one as much as you've enjoyed the rest of our sessions that we've had thus far.
Hi everyone, today I'll be speaking on how to sleep well to thrive. So just by way of full disclosure, while I am a physician, I am not your physician, and the content I'm sharing today are for educational purposes only and do not substitute professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Today I'm speaking to you as a mom, as a physician, as a sister, and as a friend. As a board-certified pediatric pulmonologist and sleep medicine physician, I understand what happens when we don't sleep enough, and I've walked in the shoes of sleep deprivation, and it isn't pleasant. And so that's why I am on a mission to empower busy moms and their children to prioritize sleep and to achieve their fullest potential. Sleep is a critical pillar of health. Unfortunately, we do not give it the attention that it deserves. It's as important, and I would actually say even more important than diet and exercise, because in order to get you on the appropriate journey for your weight loss journey, as well as to make sure that you're exercising appropriately, sleep is very foundational. The CDC has actually declared that sleep is a public health epidemic. And so what that means is a large majority of our community and our society are not getting the adequate amount of sleep that they need to thrive. And what the data shows currently is that 35% of all adults in the United States report sleeping on an average for less than 7 hours per night, and 10 to 30% of adults struggle with chronic insomnia. That's an astounding number. meaning about 1 in 3 adults are not sleeping adequately. And this same problem is also seen in our children, in our teenagers, as well as our young children. And because we don't get enough sleep, the long-term effects, the consequences are actually very harmful. This is a saying by Sean Combs. And one of the things he said is, my mind is always racing and always going and always working. It's a gift and a curse. So how many people can identify with that, right? Where you feel like your mind is constantly racing when you get into bed, and because of that you have all these creative ideas, but it seems to come at the wrong time, because your bed is meant for sleep, and when it's time to sleep really is the time to get things calm and relaxing for you to be able to sleep. And when your mind is constantly racing, that can definitely impact the quality of sleep that you get. So why do we sleep? Sleep is not just a cure for sleepiness or sleep. Yes, exactly. It's not just a cure for sleepiness. Sleep is a biological requirement along with food, water, and air. And when we do it well, sleep occupies 20 to 40% of the day. The thing about it is, sleep is driven by a lot of other factors. So environmental factors, interpersonal factors, as well as the society we live in. If you think about the way our work schedules are built, sometimes you may need to go to work you may work shifts, and so that may impact your ability to get enough sleep. Sometimes think about our children, our teenagers particularly, who have very early school start times. This is likely to deprive them of getting adequate sleep. So when we think about the problems with sleep, we're looking at so many factors that play a role. And I would want to say that the impact of sleep is vast on our mental health, and there's a lot of studies that have shown that, on our physical health, which we'll talk a little bit more about, on the ability we have to focus and have good memory, as well as our personal and public safety. So these are just some of the benefits of sleep. It helps with rest and restoration. It helps with our cognitive function, so our ability to remember things, memory consolidation, our attention and our creativity, concentration and decision making. It's important that we sleep well for us to heal and repair. It's very important for hormonal balance as well. And a lot of studies have shown that our hormones can be off balance when we actually don't get enough sleep. And so one of the things I like to say is, sleep helps us to be happy, to be healthy, and to be more successful. And who doesn't want that? Now, what are the consequences of insufficient sleep? What happens when we don't sleep enough, or you miss a little bit of sleep here, a little bit of sleep there? What happens on the long run? Sometimes you can already feel it. The nights that you had a bad night and you couldn't sleep well, or you were out till late and you didn't get enough sleep, you already wake up feeling not quite yourself. And one of the things that can be affected is our executive function, which, especially as either professionals or people that are making decisions every day, we make thousands and thousands of decisions every day. And sometimes those decisions are life-changing. So the quality of the decisions we make matters. And it turns out that our executive function is related to good sleep. Learning, cognition, making decisions, and memory, inattention and impulsivity can be something that we'll see when we don't sleep well. We may see it a lot in our younger children, where they just seem to engage in more risk-taking behaviors. But it turns out as well that as adults, we engage in those behaviors as well when we don't sleep enough. Lack of focus, and there's also increased risk of making errors, especially if you are in a healthcare industry, or you are dealing with other lives. Imagine making mistakes that could potentially cost other people significantly in terms of their physical health, and actually in some situations Errors have been made which has led to people losing their lives. So these are very serious things that we want to pay attention to. In our mental health, there are studies that have shown that decreased sleep or insufficient sleep is related to depression. We can be more anxious and also, unfortunately, a higher risk of suicide. Other consequences of insufficient sleep include our general health, the effect in our general health. We are at more risk for being obese, and the reason why is a lot of things. When you don't sleep well, your hormones, there's some hormones that regulate your appetite, and those hormones are off balance essentially. And so what then happens is, instead of you to feel full like you would in the evening, if you don't sleep well, you tend to have your increase in the hunger hormones. And then the fullness hormones, or the satiety hormone, which is also known as leptin, is abnormally secreted. And so because of that, you crave sweet things, you crave sugar, you crave carbs, and you can imagine how that can lead to obesity. And the downstream effect, when we don't sleep well, we have increased cortisol going through our system. It can lead to higher rates of hypertension. We can also have diabetes. Unfortunately, some cancers have also been associated with insufficient sleep, as well as pain. Your pain threshold drops when you don't sleep well. Human performance and productivity, again, can be impacted by our sleep, and there's a higher risk of mortality. No one would ever want to go on a flight or on a plane with a pilot that's sleepy, right? No one would want to be in a car with a sleepy driver, or on the same, or share the road with a driver that's sleepy. And there have been so many studies that have shown that there's a higher rate of car crashes with people who drive sleepy. And actually, people that drive sleepy and people that are driving under the influence of alcohol, the effect of that in their response to emergency situations, hitting the brakes, seeing the red lights and things like that, is the same. So sleepy driving is similar to drunk driving. And the same way you wouldn't want to drive when you're drunk, you really should not be driving when you're sleepy. So now we've talked about how beneficial sleep is. We've highlighted what happens when we don't sleep well. And despite realizing this, a lot of times we still have a hard time prioritizing sleep. And there are several reasons why this may happen. One is that sometimes we define ourselves by our productivity. It's almost a badge of honor to say, yes, I only sleep very limited hours and look at me. There's really nothing to be proud of when you don't get enough sleep, especially now you understand how important sleep is to our health and to the decisions we make. And then sometimes work does not allow us to sleep in or to get enough sleep. Sometimes it's because we're stressed and we're anxious and we have this hyper arousal state where it's hard for our minds to shut down and we're just in this vicious cycle. In some situations, we see sleep as a luxury. I'll sleep when I'm dead. We've heard people say things like that. Heard people say things like, you snooze, you lose. We've heard people say things like, sleep is for the weak. I'm here to tell you that every one of those things is wrong. So if you're out there and you're someone who works with a team, you're someone who owns a company or runs a business, or you're an employee, if you are going to interview somebody and they tell you that, oh yes, I work so hard, I don't sleep, I would advise you to be very careful, because the quality of their decisions is actually not perfect. It's not ideal. So you want somebody who's dedicated to work, but also so dedicated to work that they prioritize their sleep. And then the other piece is we sometimes don't prioritize our sleep because we feel like we're compensating in other areas of our lives. So you may say, oh, you know what, I'm not going to be able to sleep enough because I want to wake up and go for a run or go and get my exercise routine and things like that, which, please, by all means, definitely exercise, because exercise is very important for your sleep. But you have to do both. You have to be able to prioritize sleep as well as prioritize other areas of health in your life. Now, how do we gain and how do we develop restful sleep habits? Now that we understand that sleep is very important, sleep is very helpful, sleep helps our mood, our learning, our memory, our interactions with other people. Sleep, good sleep, starts during the day. There are things that you may have in your diet that can affect your sleep. There are things that you may be doing, having good activity can affect your sleep, as well as your mental health. So when I talk about having a healthy diet, things like alcohol or sugary meals or heavy starchy foods around bedtime are not very good for sleep. But eating foods that are enriched in different vitamins, different minerals, tryptophan, so things like turkey and meats and things like that are actually really good for your sleep. Exercise helps improve the quality of sleep you have. So the good thing about exercise is that it increases endorphins, and so what that does, and it lowers your stress level as well. And so what that does is it promotes healthy sleep. But then you want to avoid heavy exercise too close to bedtime. The reason why is usually your heart rate goes up when you exercise, your body temperature goes up when you exercise. So you want to be able to cool down right to sleep. So usually about 2 hours before, you want to avoid any intense exercise. So moderate exercise to intense exercise you really want to avoid. But you can still engage in taking a walk, in yoga, in some of in stretches, which is still good and can help you get good sleep. The other piece is the mental health, and that cannot be overemphasized, especially with the way the world is now. There's a lot that fills our mind. There's stress. There's every time you turn on the news, it's one bad news or the other. There's social media. There's all the technology. There's all the demands that are being placed on us, and all those things make it hard for us to wind down. And this is where having a stable mental state comes in. Practicing mindfulness, having a therapist if you need to have one, really to get your mind in a place where it's calm enough for you to sleep. How much sleep do we need? So the National Sleep Foundation actually has these recommendations that vary by age in terms of the amount of sleep that we need. And this ranges from, you see here in newborns, anywhere from 14 to 17 hours, to adults where it's 7 to 9 hours. And this varies. So 7 to 9 hours, there's some people that are okay sleeping 7 hours. Some people need the full 9 hours. And the idea behind knowing how much is good for you or how much you need is dependent on how you feel. How do you feel when you wake up? Do you still feel groggy? Do you still feel tired? During the day, do you find yourself nodding off? This might be some suggestions that you need more sleep. Now, creating restful sleep habits takes following healthy principles. And what I have here is an acronym that can help you get started on that. C stands for consistent. You should have a consistent bedtime and a consistent wake time. And that really should not change as too much on the weekends. A lot of times we hear of people wanting to sleep in, and you might be one of those people who say, okay, you know what, I don't have enough sleep during the week. I'm gonna work on getting more sleep at night on the weekends. And while that may help to some degree, it's not as effective as we think. Number one is that it creates a shift in your internal clock, especially when you sleep in for several hours during the weekend. And so the thing that then happens is you have this shift, and then when Monday comes around, you're back to having a hard time again. And there's a phenomenon we call the social jet lag, where it feels like you've gone to a different time zone, like California, and you're in the East Coast or something. And so you've had that shift, and it just really makes it harder for your body to reset when you're back to the week. Another thing is having a routine that's at bedtime. And this really cues our bodies to sleep. And this can be 2 to 3 calming or relaxing activities headed in the direction of the bedroom, and varies depending on what really works for you, whether it's a bath or a shower or you're reading a book or something of that sort, just really helping you to get ready to go to bed. We tend to have routines for our children, and many times, sometimes, especially when we've had a busy day, we just end up, flopping into bed. And that doesn't really help because it makes it hard for our minds to shut down. Environment that is cool, that is dark, and that is noise free can also promote good sleep. And this is really helpful, especially when there's a lot of light outside. Sometimes with the daylight savings, it seems to be a bit bright and you may not feel like it's time to sleep. But having a room that's really dark can promote sleep. The reason why is that our brains produce a hormone called melatonin, and it's a hormone of darkness. And this hormone is responsible for helping us sleep. And when we have a dark environment, the hormone is able to be released. A stands for assign the bed for sleep and sex and sleep only in bed. So the bed should not be a place where you're doing all other activities like doing work or playing video games or watching TV or eating. Because what happens is our brains create associations, and we want the right association to be created by sleeping only in bed. T stands for tackle technology. And this is a talk all by itself. Essentially, what we're trying to do is limit any devices or electronics close to bedtime. So about 30 to 60 minutes before bed, you want to avoid using your devices. E stands for eliminate caffeine, alcohol, and heavy meals. And that's kind of self-explanatory. Caffeine is a stimulant that helps us to stay awake. But then at nighttime, because it has a very long half-life, it stays in our systems for much longer than it should. And so really we want to avoid ingesting caffeine or taking caffeine too close to our bedtime. I usually will say don't take any more caffeine after 1 p.m. If you feel like you need caffeine for the whole day, you have to stop and ask yourself why. Why do I need so much caffeine? What's going on? It may be that you're not getting enough sleep. And so what you should do instead of taking more and more caffeine is to protect yourself by getting more sleep. So that's the acronym CREATE. But then there are other things that you may want to consider. You follow the healthy habits, you're doing the best you can, yet you have a hard time sleeping. It might be a sign that you have a medical condition or sleep disorder, and this may need to be treated appropriately. So examples of those are things like insomnia, sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome, as well as narcolepsy, which is a condition where you just are not able to keep awake. Delayed sleep phase is another condition that we tend to see. And also it may be because you're on certain medications and those medications are not allowing you to sleep well. So once you get to this stage where you've practiced healthy sleep habits and you're still finding it hard to sleep, it's definitely time to speak with your physician so that you can either get tested and evaluated to find out what's going on. So we talked a little bit about melatonin being the darkness hormone. You can also get melatonin as a natural supplement from the stores. And again, what melatonin does is it helps us to fall asleep. It's not a sedative, it's a hormone our body produces. So essentially what it does is it just helps you feel sleepy. And it comes in different doses, it comes in different preparations. You can usually get it at your regular pharmacy or over the counter in the store where you get your supplements and things like that. So many other medications help for sleep. But what I recommend before we start to take medications on the long term is to see, why do you need medication? Why do you need to take medicine for sleep? Is it because there's a sleep disorder that you're not paying attention to? Is it because there is something else that's underlying this? Are you practicing healthy sleep habits? What is going on? So while we may need medications, it's important to address other things first before we go on to medications. Another thing that we should consider is, you've done it all, but you are still having a hard time sleeping. This is where seeing what your priorities are. Are you prioritizing sleep appropriately? Are you being realistic with what your expectations are for sleep? Is there a medical disorder that's contributing to your sleep problems, like we talked about? Are there mental health disorders like anxiety or depression or bipolar disorder, which can affect our sleep? Are there medications to think about? And then, do you need a sleep coach, someone to hold you accountable to make sure that you are getting the sleep that you need to be able to function, and not just function to thrive? One thing I want to definitely emphasize is to never drive when you're sleeping. I spoke about this already, but drowsy driving is similar to drunk driving. And there are different ways by which you can tell that you're starting to nod off. You may have these periods where you sort of micro sleep, where you sort of lose, almost like briefly lose consciousness for a few seconds. Or you're yawning, you're blinking, you're trying all kinds of things to stay awake. Most of the time, those things don't seem to work. Another thing you may notice is you may have driven several miles and then you just realize, wait, how did I get here? Or you may miss your exit, you may drift from your lane. And then there's the rumble strip, right? Sometimes you're driving and you just feel that rumble strip, which is supposed to kind of alert you in case you've dozed off. So these are some things that may trigger you to know that you're sleepy. And what I recommend is pull off the road. Even if it's 5 minutes, take a nap. It makes the world of a difference. So we've talked about insufficient sleep causing a lot of problems, and sleep being not just a cure for sleepiness, but something that helps our physical health, our mental health, our learning and executive function. And so sleep is not a luxury, it's a biological necessity. I want you to imagine bedtime being a calming time for you. I want you to imagine being able to prioritize your sleep, waking up in the morning feeling refreshed because you've gotten good quality and good quantity sleep. I want you to imagine being able to invest in yourself by prioritizing your sleep as part of your self-care. It's possible. Imagine how brilliant that would be and how you feel. I want you to hold on to that idea that this is possible. But, regardless of where you are on your sleep journey, you can start today. And so if there's one thing that you're willing to change, if you're willing to change just that one thing, I would say start your journey towards a healthier, more productive life, and start with prioritizing sleep. Fortunately, while you may feel you've heard all this and it's like, okay, what next? What can we do? I'm happy to let you know that I do offer a one-on-one coaching for busy moms where we can develop strategies to help you get the sleep you need, to have more energy, to stop living in a fog, to have decreased stress and anxiety, and to be more productive. Who doesn't want all that, right? Also, we talk about resolving limiting beliefs around your sleep, and we help you to move from being exhausted to well-rested and energetic. And the way to get on there is through my website, where we can schedule a call to just talk about what's been going on, to talk about how I can help serve you and how I can help improve your sleep. So I look forward to connecting with many of you. Thank you so much.
Hello, and thank you so much for that presentation.
Oh, thank you.
Um, yes, that's what we need to hear that.
I hope it was helpful.
Yes, it definitely was. I see we have a few questions. I don't know if you had a chance to peek at those. I'll start at the top. And one is in regards to exercise. What if exercising makes me sleepy, so I do it at night? Or maybe I'm just out of shape. So,
That's an excellent question. So, one of the things that we know, even from research, is that what exercise actually does is it helps you get deep sleep. So, we have different stages or cycles of sleep. You have light sleep, you have deep sleep, and you have REM sleep. A lot of people think REM sleep and deep sleep are the same. They're not the same. REM sleep is your dream sleep, and you know research is not clear what that really does, but it's they feel like there's some emotion regulation associated with REM sleep. But deep sleep is that restorative sleep where your body actually repairs itself, you recover, you heal, your immune system get boosted. So when you exercise, you're increasing the amount of deep sleep you get. So exercise is phenomenal. And what exercise also does is it helps you increase what you call your sleep drive. So the likelihood that you fall asleep and you stay asleep. So I would say by any means get that exercise in. The only thing is if you exercise very close to bedtime, say about within that 2 hour window, sometimes it leaves you sort of revved up, whereby it's harder for you to then settle down and fall asleep because exercise, it creates this, it's almost like you get a little bit of a high, right?
mhm,
So
mhm.
with your and so that may increase your energy level and it may affect your sleep. But if you notice that when you exercise you actually feel more sleepy, please by all means do it. I don't want it to be like, oh yes, Dr. Brown said I can't exercise too close to bedtime. I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to exercise during the day. No, 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 no. Let's not do that. Just whatever time you can get, whether it's a brisk walk, whether it's a walk on your treadmill, whatever, just get it in. And if you already start to feel sleepy when you're exercising, that's perfect. That is totally fine.
Got it. All right. Our next question looks like it's from a wife. Alrighty. So, what if hubby wakes me up at 4 p.m.? Is this bad for my health?
I
The
hear you.
my cycle.
Well, no, it's not. Hopefully, you're able to go back to bed. Another thing you can do is, it's so funny the way life is most of the time we end up with spouses that have, maybe if you're a night owl, meaning that you're someone who likes to stay up late, you may end up with a spouse who is a morning person. So it's so interesting how that dynamic works. But this is something that you definitely have to be aware of and talk about. So either you are getting to bed a little bit earlier or you both commit to saying, okay, our goal is, maybe 7 hours of sleep. How are we going to fit that 7 hours of sleep if we still have to wake up or want to wake up at 4 a.m.? So find what works. It's not bad for your health if it's not causing impairment during the day, right? Or think about, maybe could we try um 5 a.m. instead, something of that sort. So there's conversations we can have around that.
All right. Do weighted blankets work? Are they worth buying them?
So I think, just like I talked about with the melatonin, you have to step back and say, why? Why do I need a weighted blanket? What is going on? It's, the same way we talk about, finding your why. Finding why do you want to sleep better? Or why do you want to improve your health? Why do you think you need a weighted blanket? Are you restless at night? Do you have anxiety? For some children that have like autism sometimes, or ADHD, it helps them. Children that have sensory issues and adults also have sensory issues. Are those reasons why you feel like you need a weighted blanket? Is it because your mind is racing and you just feel like it's calming? So really understanding why you feel you need it. There's no one size fits all. I've seen people that invest so much because weighted blankets they're not cheap. So I've seen people invest in it and and they find out, oh, that was not the fix. That was not what I needed. I needed to do a lot of work on my mindset. I needed to do a lot of work setting boundaries, or I needed medications, or
Mm-hmm.
I needed treatment for my anxiety. So I think it's really understanding why,
Mm-hmm.
um, before investing in that. The research on weighted market is all over the place, so there's
Okay.
nothing that really says yes, it's the fix all.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to try something that's less expensive just to see first before you invest in a very, very expensive one, then that's definitely an option. But try to get to the bottom of why you feel you would need one.
Got it. And we have one last question around melatonin. I know that this might be kind of the same thing. Um, so, what are your thoughts on melatonin and your body relying on it?
Yeah, so our bodies produce melatonin in very, very small quantities actually, and just a little bit is enough. And what melatonin does, it's not supposed to be a sleep aid, like a sleep medicine. It's just a hormone that your brain produces to let you know that it's time to sleep. And so sort of helps you fall asleep. There's some conditions where one, melatonin may be produced either later or may just be produced in people feel in abnormal amounts. People that have autism, ADHD, some neurological conditions have lower melatonin. Some people that work shifts, if you're a shift worker and you're expected to sleep when everybody else is awake, your brain
Mm-hmm.
is not producing melatonin in the middle of the day, so you may need some additional melatonin. Or like jet lag, so if you're someone who travels frequently and you're on different time zones and you need to fall
Mm-hmm.
asleep faster, melatonin can help you do that. Now, a lot of the studies that have been done, even having people on melatonin for long, have not necessarily shown any dependence or significant side effects. Most of the time, the type of side effects you get is if you're taking really high doses. Again, like I said, your own body's natural melatonin is very, very small, maybe like 0 point something milligrams, like 0.0 something milligrams. But you'll see melatonin in the store, like a 10 milligram, 20 milligram melatonin. So when you take such high doses, you might start to have side effects. You may start to feel groggy. Some people have nightmares. Some people feel very sleepy during the day. So in higher doses, you may see those side effects, but they're relatively safe in smaller doses. And if you're using it for the right indication, and then it's not habit forming. You can get dependent on it in the sense of how people have almost like a placebo effect where it's like, oh, I didn't take my melatonin, therefore my night is going to be catastrophic. You may get into that kind of scenario. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily because you're relying on the melatonin. You would do the same thing if you had a gummy vitamin that you felt like would help you sleep. You know what I mean? So we're not really seeing that habit forming characteristic like other like sleep medications have. And like you mentioned too, you have to step back and say, why am I needing melatonin so much? What else exactly is going on? And try to dig down to what is the underlying cause of my sleep problem that's making me feel like I need to rely on melatonin.
And I know this question isn't up there, but it just made me think about it when you mentioned about medications. I know Ambien was like extremely popular for a hot second, and then I think they reduced it. And I
Yeah.
remember talking to friends who like um, just had periods of like not remembering things, so it was
Mm,
like in reverse but still being awake and that type of thing.
mm,
So like if someone's a shift worker, or like you said, like folks that need to go to sleep super super fast, like how do you balance like the safety and I don't know what you normally, and I know
yeah.
you're no one's doctor, we're put that out there again.
Yes, yes, exactly. So, with prescribed medications, personally, I don't, I'm able to get people sleeping much easier without and more sustainable, because you have to think about what's the end point of the
Mhm,
medication, right? Some people are on it for years, and
mhm,
all these medicines are not without side effects. And so there are ways, depending on if you have acute insomnia, which is a whole diagnosis of its own, where you're just not able to sleep. Either something stressful happens, right? We go through that loss of a loved one, a huge change in our lives, a big move. You may need Ambien, or you may need any of those sleep medications briefly in consultation with your doctor, just on the short term. And
mhm.
usually, even when they talk about it, talking about using it maybe for 4 to 6 weeks or something. But if you find out that you're needing it on the long term, like you're relying on it, there's more going on. And the gold standard treatment actually for insomnia which is that diagnosis that we all say, we hear everybody say, "Oh, I think I have insomnia. I've had insomnia since I was young." All that stuff. The gold standard for it is a treatment called cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, and that's what the American Academy of Sleep Medicine actually recommends. In some situations, of course, you may need medications, but again, because of all the side effects, all the dependence issues and tolerance, it's not necessarily the most favored approach.
Got it. All right. Thank you. That is the last question of the afternoon. But I appreciate you sticking around and answering those for us. Um, Thank you for your time again. I was so excited about watching this one and being able to talk to you. So fabulous, fabulous session. This is being recorded. So to the attendees out there who are watching, we will, upload this so that you can invite your friends back to watch it on demand, and then we will also be uploading it to our new YouTube channel, Disrupt and Build Up, which launches next week. I had some folks already reach out to me asking about the channel, and so no, because we're putting the videos up now. So it will be up. So all this great information will still be available to you. So that is it. And if you have any closing remarks, feel free.
Yeah, I will just again like to thank you so much for having me, Nicole. It's been just incredible sharing my passion on sleep. Again, like I mentioned, insufficient sleep is an epidemic, and we don't have to be part of that statistic. We can learn to prioritize sleep. It makes us think clearer. As women who are making critical decisions daily, it helps optimize the quality of decisions that we make, and it just enhances us overall. And it's free. It's free, so we can all take advantage of this free gifts that we've been given.
Oh, I like that. Great, great note. Yes, sleep is a gift. Yes. So use it. Yes. All right. Well, thank you to everyone who's watching, and we will see you soon at our next session. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Thanks. Bye, everyone.